Back on Get Up. Next game is fact or fiction beginning in Pittsburgh. Hey, Harry, if I said Russell Wilson is going to lead the Steelers to the playoffs this year, is that fact or fiction?
I'm going fact, and I also believe, especially with the new additions in Mike Williams and also Preston Smith, that Russell Wilson will have the ability to lead them deeper into the playoffs and not just a first-round exit. So I'm going fact, Greeny.
You know, I want to put the picks up on the game this week. Steelers-Commanders is a sneaky great game, right? I mean, that is a sneaky great game. Jason, I see you've got Pittsburgh alongside me. Why?
I like the way Pittsburgh Steelers have played the game. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about their ability to run the ball with Najee Harris and then the addition of Mike Williams. I likened it to the 2020 Arthur Smith, who's their offensive coordinator. He was in Tennessee as their offensive coordinator. They had A.J. Brown on one side, Corey Davis on the other side. Two big wide receivers. You run the ball, go play action, you throw the ball over the middle, and you have no fear in those big bodies. Now you're going to have George Pickens on one side and Mike Williams on the other side, and I like that.
A 6-2 team, a 7-2 team. Two of the more successful teams this season, both active at the trade deadline. Washington trades for Marshawn Lattimore. The Steelers trade for Mike Williams and Preston Smith. Preston Smith and Mike Williams make their debuts on Sunday against Washington. I don't think Washington will have Marshawn Lattimore to match up against Mike Williams. He's still recovering from the hamstring injury. But here are two teams that have sent a message on and off the field throughout the course of the season and look like they'll be real players all year long.
And both of them have... You would call this a trap game for both teams if it wasn't such an interesting game, because the Commanders play the Eagles and Cowboys the next 2 weeks, their division games. The Steelers play the Ravens the following week, you know, in a game that could be to try and hold on to the division. So that's a good one. All right, fact or fiction, back to that. Orlovsky, you're next. If I said Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best quarterback-wide receiver duo in the league, would that be fact or fiction?
ESPN's next 30 for 30. What if I told you that Jared Goff has not thrown an incompletion to Amon-Ra St. Brown since September? It's November 5th, okay? I would say fact. Right now, this is the best. They've gone 30 straight. If I took me and Harry or any quarterback wide receiver duo in the NFL right now and just said, go out to practice and throw 30 balls, you're going to go like 28 to 30, and that would be normal. Doing it in games is absolutely ridiculous statistically.
To be clear, he has completed his last 30 targets in a row to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Dan is saying you would go 28 or 29 in practice.
Well, probably not even that. We'd probably go 25 of 30.
Are y'all talking about right now or before?
If you took Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson, what if Daniels and McLaurin, they go 28 to 30.
What if you did it with a big-time quarterback?
Oh, God, that was not nice.
Which is why I said me, Schefter.
Not nice, but funny. But
look at me. I'm talking about Schefter.
We could actually do this on the roof. Like, we could actually go upstairs. We have this huge roof space that when we launched this show, we were going to use all the time. And we have been there.
I love this idea.
We've been there once in 6.5 years.
Too old, man.
I don't even remember what it looks like.
Dude, if you took all the quarterbacks and wide receivers.
The point is, let's go up there. Let's set this up for next week. Dan and Harry, you guys are going to run 30 routes. We'll script the workout, and we will see how many out of the 30. By the way, everybody else is saying Burrow and Chase as the number one.
I'm surprised people haven't said like Lamar or Zay there.
So that was I feel like they're on their way.
What about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown right now?
Yeah, I mean,
but the thing I love about Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, also what Jamar Chase provides, he can play anywhere on the football field, and it's that explosion. He can take any catch and take it the distance.
All right, so then let's get to the third one, because we've just talked about Jaden Daniels, sort of, but by talking about Washington. We're talking about Jared Goff right now. They would both be in the MVP conversation if the award were given right now. So if someone said Josh Allen is the midseason MVP, J-Mac, would that be fact or fiction?
I'm going fiction on this one, and I love what Josh Allen has done so far this season, but it's hard for me to say Lamar Jackson isn't the MVP right now. He has been so good, the best quarterback in the pocket right now, and that's not even talking about what he does when he scrambles, he's able to make plays with his legs. I think 100% it is Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen is on his way to really inserting himself in that conversation.
Let's show all the picks here. Again, we are at the direct midpoint of the NFL season, as close as you can get in a 17-game schedule. I see a lot of Lamar Jacksons on my screen. Harry.
Yeah, I love Lamar Jackson. He's first in QBR, quarterback rating, third in passing yards, has over 500 yards rushing as well. The way he's playing from the pocket. But, man, Lamar Jackson is that dude right now. But Josh Allen, the Josh Allen deal could come up in a few weeks. I'm doing that game on ESPN Radio with Steve Levy versus the Chiefs.
When they play Kansas City. That's a week from Sunday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Josh Allen so far right now, 17 touchdowns to 10 different wide receivers. That's the most of any quarterback in the NFL, and he's getting the ball out the fastest he's ever done in his career. So he is leading them, and he's making plays and playing really well right now.
How does Dan wind up on Jared Goff for the combination of quarterback and receiver, but not an MVP? And I wind up on Jared Goff as MVP when I can make a case for Jared Goff or Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
Those would be the two guys right now that would stand out to me as the real MVP candidates. Now, Lamar Jackson's been unbelievable. He's been on fire, but he's also got Derrick Henry running the football on the same team. Jaden Daniels has uplifted an entire franchise. Jared Goff has got an entire state chanting Jared Goff. Like, when you get an entire state chanting your name like that, as a general rule, you are a big-time MVP candidate.
As a general
I mean, trust me, no one's had Jared. Okay, so the MVP conversation this year is fascinating. So the past couple years in the NFL, the parity has been unbelievable. Every team has been in the playoff conversation until like week 17. We don't have that this year. But we have way more people that legitimately have MVP cases. There's no doubt about it. Lamar Jackson's going to be in it till the end. Derrick Henry likely till the end. Josh Allen likely to the end. Jared Goff will be there till the end. I think that people will sit there and just remember Jared Goff was thrown away, so there's people who think he sucks or he's a product of his offense. So I think that's going to hurt him a little bit. I think there's 4 guys that can get into that conversation, though, okay? 1, Jaden Daniels, no question about it. Josh's legitimate candidacy will be determined in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Yes.
Buffalo's schedule is freaking brutal.
Yes.
They go Indy. I think they play Detroit. They play
the
San
Chiefs.
Francisco. They play the Chiefs.
Yep.
Okay, so Jaden's going to get into that conversation. There's no question about
Kicks
it.
off tonight with a fascinating game. So let's do a little Week 10 watch. Really good schedule. Dan, what's one thing you're looking out for this weekend?
With the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, those Georgia boys from the Eagles defensively are playing. Since the bye, Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, we're talking 7.5 sacks, 16 pressures, 51 tackles. This defense the first 2 weeks of the year was terrible. Since then, and really since the bye, this has become one of the best defenses in football. Their defensive line is playing dominant. Their backers are spectacular, and their young secondary playing lights out.
Eagles-Cowboys, an interesting game. A really good game is Pittsburgh and Washington. Harry, what are you watching in that one?
Yeah, I want to know from the Commander side of things, what's your game plan versus T.J. Watt? We know 3 of the last 4 years he's led the NFL in sacks. We know he's a game wrecker. Are you going to go no huddle? Are you going to run right at him? Are you going to double team him? What's the plan offensively for the Washington Commanders when it comes to T.J. Watt?
By the way, his name didn't come up in the MVP conversation we just had. Maybe it should. He's the reason that team is where it is. Finally, Week 10 kicks off tonight, J-Mac. Bengals and Ravens, AFC North showdown. What are you watching for?
I want to see Lamar do what he's been doing all season long, and that's standing firm in the pocket. The top QBR in the pocket of any quarterback in the NFL this season, and his ability to pick defenses apart, get the ball over top of the backers, hitting Zay and all of these guys on the outside. Can he do that against this Bengals defense the same way he did it in the first matchup earlier in the season?
Let me remind anybody who doesn't remember this game. These two teams met a little over a month ago. It was a fascinating show. There was a bad snap on a field goal that would have ended it. It wound up 41-38 Baltimore in overtime. Lamar threw for 4 touchdowns and had over 400 yards total offense. Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns in a loss. Are we going to see that kind of offensive firework display tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is first to 40. And this game really comes down to, can the Bengals defense be okay enough? Can this Bengals defense give their offense a chance? No team has scored more points and losses per game than Cincinnati Bengals. Now, it's a massive challenge, okay? You're watching a Baltimore secondary that has had blown coverages. They haven't played one-on-one football that well. They haven't made contested stops. This is going to come down to Cincinnati's defense, okay? Last week, the encouraging thing, and you notice, J-Mac, Mike Hilton looked like Mike Hilton.
Yep.
Logan Wilson looked like Logan Wilson. Trey Hendrickson looked like Trey Hendrickson.
It was a monster.
Their stars got to be stars tonight. Those 3 defensive guys, for them to win tonight, they're going to have to slow down what is arguably the best offense in football.
It starts against a run, though. Totally. You got to be able to minimize the run for the Baltimore Ravens.
It starts, really for me, it starts that play action pass. I understand the run. If you let this offense for Baltimore just do what they want in the play action game and Lamar can be clean, you're dead. You will not stop them. You got to have a better play action pass defensive plan.
The Bengals need B.J. Hill to play tonight. He's listed as questionable. That'll be a big factor for them. We know they're already going to be missing T. Higgins in this game. And Zach Moss, you saw some of the injury notes. He's not going to play again this season, so they're going to have to rely on Chase Brown. Khalil Herbert, who they acquired this week from the Bears, could play tonight in a game in which the Ravens won't have Isaiah Likely, which we know how active they've been with their tight ends. So some injury questions for both teams tonight going into the game.
The Bengals, you made the point earlier today, Dan, the whole new audience joining us here in a new hour. The Bengals, who had a really rocky, that's understating it, they had a terrible start to their season, as well as Burrow has generally played. They can salvage everything in the next 17 days.
17 days will determine if they can get in the dance and if Joe Burrow gets in the MVP conversation. They play tonight on the road against Baltimore, obviously massive game. Next week, Sunday Night Football versus the Chargers. To get in the playoffs, the Chargers will be a team that they have to jump over, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers. To get in the playoffs, the Steelers will be a team that they have to jump over. For as bad as the start was, if they can find a way to go to 2-1 over these next 3 and get to 6-6 with 5 games left, I think they are very much so alive in the playoff picture.
See, I honestly feel like it comes down to this game tonight. I feel like if the Cincinnati Bengals lose against the Baltimore Ravens, they are not going to make the playoffs in 2024.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, you're running out of time with the amount of wins. When you start slow and you lose a game to the New England Patriots early on, you have to find ways to get victories over playoff teams. I think that also gives them the belief in themselves of, yes, we've turned the corner, especially as you talked about defensively. If you can go in there and get enough stops to beat Lamar Jackson in this offense, you walk out of that game and you feel like you're moving in the right direction for a Chargers game or a Steelers game on your schedule.
You win in Baltimore, you feel like you're going to win anywhere.
Exactly.
Yep, I agree.
And I think they can. I really believe that this football, now their defense, again, I think tonight, I've said this, tonight for them to win comes down to one person, Mike Gesicki. If Mike Gesicki goes over 100, I think they win tonight. I think Jamar has to join him. I expect him to join him.
You know, the interesting thing about Burrow, because he played badly week 1, it's literally one bad game against New England, and because they didn't start winning early in the season, they opened, was it 1-4, 1-5, whatever they were early on. People are they're sleeping on the season he's having. So much so that when you made the point about MVP this morning, I decided, I guess I should look up his stats and see just how good it's been. Joe Burrow has a QBR of 76.3 this season. That's the second best in the league. He has thrown 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Joe Burrow is having at one of the great seasons of his or any career. His defense has just been so bad that the team hasn't gotten to 500.
Simply put, the defense is wasting an MVP candidate season. I mean, he's on track for 38 touchdowns and 8 turnovers and 8 interceptions. And the reason, again, the conversation of the big game, Kansas City doesn't want to see Joe Burrow. They just don't. He's the guy that they know strategically can get it done against them.
And there have been only two quarterbacks who have beaten Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow has not been fully healthy, admittedly, at the start of the season, still getting over the wrist surgery that he had last year in a game in which he injured it at Baltimore on a Thursday night, back to the scene of the crime tonight. And he had the slow start in part because of the injury. And then also, T. Higgins hasn't played a lot this season. If they can get T. Higgins back on the field and you have Higgins and Chase and Burrow getting healthier, you become even more dangerous later in the season.
I look at 3 games right now for Cincinnati that can come back to haunt them versus the Chiefs. 4th down, that defense let them down. Against the Commanders, we've seen the go ball versus cover 0 by Jaden Daniels. That can come back to haunt them. And also the Baltimore Ravens. That's a game that can come back to haunt them at the end of the